Alan Watt is back with us. Got a better phone connection with him. Alan, looking at the current economic implosion and what's happening right now, the IMF, the World Bank documents are on record. We told people decades ago that they would implode the world economy through derivatives when they got rid of Glass-Steagall, that they would then offer a new global government as the Bank of the World as the solution. We've got more news reports where the federal government admits that the cap and trade is a carbon tax to shut down our industrial operations. In fact, here it is, CNS News. Obama's commerce nominee, cap and trade good for hiding carbon taxes. And they go on to shut down industrial operations. See, people don't get this. The monopoly men want to shut down industrial operations. They want to make us dependent. They want to herd us into the cities. They don't want alternative energy. It's the opposite of that. But to control that movement, they then try to finance it with the tax incentives so they can direct it in the way they want. And now, debt fears, U.S. rating could be placed under review, warns Moody's. It was Standard & Poor's 2 months ago. That's 2 of the 3 rating agencies. Gives lawmakers until mid-July to show progress in talks. That means cutting the benefits, raising taxes, giving the bankers more or they'll raise the debt level. Economic horror as data plunges. Joblessness increases. So I thought the economy was great, Alan. Where are they going? What do the globalists want to do?
Well, they've said it many times, even long ago. They said there must never be another America across the world, and the best thing they could do was dismantle all the industry within America. That was all part of this big plan. And this is the phase you're going through now. I've said for years that as America, which was the military machine to standardize the world for the big boys, when they were finishing off the last of their jobs, they'd pull the rug from under their feet at home. And that's what you're seeing now. And you understand, too, nothing is debated in front of the public. Nothing of any import is debated at all. It's done in very high meetings with high-level bureaucrats from across the world signing agreements.
Well, we got that from the SPP and other documents that have been, lawsuits have been filed to get them. They go into these North American Union EU meetings. The Fortune 100 is there, and they actually tell the leaders of the different federal departments what they're going to do, and they absolutely click their heels and follow it.
Yes, they call the guys Sherpas. Sherpas are the bureaucrats who spend a year traveling across the world negotiating with other countries' bureaucrats, and they draft up all the stuff that's signed at these G8 and G20 meetings, and they just go and have a big party at the G20 meetings and sign their names to the documents. When Rothschild came out in Britain and said that his family's private bank in Switzerland would handle all the carbon trade for the planet, backed by Al Gore, of course, then when you make an announcement like that, they're not giving you a suggestion, they're telling you how it's going to be. This is a must-be, as they call it. It's not going to be debated through any Congress or Parliament. It's simply done. And that's when they go to such work and spend years setting the whole system up, they don't back off and say the public don't want it, we better give the public what they want. That doesn't happen. But there's no input at all in today's society of anything called democracy, unless you're an NGO funded by the foundations. So Australia, as you know, it's really almost a feminist government now, Fabian socialist, and they're the first ones to go carbon neutral, as they call it. And but half the farmers now can't even plant on their lands because they're classified as carbon sinks. So you still got to pay for the land. No one wants to buy it, so you've got to keep paying the taxes for it, and that's you stuck for life. There's no compensation. There's nothing. That's just to be the way across the whole world, except for a few countries that are favoured countries. And we know the up-and-coming nations, Brazil, we've got Brazil, India, China is still classed, by the way, as an up-and-coming country, even though it's the manufacturer for the whole planet. They've got tax exemptions. They have, for all investments, by the way, 15 years free tax if you come in to build a factory there.
Yeah, what they do is they shut down all the Western zones and then say no taxes basically to go to China or India. And then everything moves there because those countries are already under a tyranny, and it's meant to lower the standard of the rest of the globe. It's all on record. And when you mention, I have the newscast out of England and Australia, how good half the farmland is now off limits. You can't use it. And then they tell the farmers, but you've still got to pay the full tax on it. But then what they do is once they go bankrupt, the government buys it and then gives it to Fortune 500 and then removes the exemptions, just like Obama with the health care, giving over 2,000 waivers to his friends where they don't have to buy the health care, but you do. And General Electric is exempt from the carbon taxes. It's pure mafia evil, just total crime out in the open.
You've got to remember, too, Alex, that everything changed in the 70s when the Club of Rome. Now, the Club of Rome is a big premier think tank. Whatever they think about in their big think tanks becomes the way of the future, and everyone listens to them. That's why they're paid to do what they do. And they're given the tasks of how to con the public under different guises. Global warming was one. They were the guys who dreamed up global warming.
Yeah, let's break it down, because you've got all the documents. We've covered it in Endgame. It's premeditated evil. They admit it is. Will the yuppies wake up? Never. They love being conned. They love being hurt. They love being schmucks. They love being scammed. My friends, if we can wake up to the full import of a handful of European families with unlimited money and resources who looked at past oligarchies who had been public and been overthrown and said, let's go behind the scenes, let's operate through stealth, let's buy off the universities, the publishing houses, and they all wrote books, later that were basically just circulated amongst themselves bragging about this. In more modern times, Men in Power is a political retrospective, 1992, Helmut Schmidt, former German chancellor, admits the whole thing. Carol Quigley, Georgetown political science professor, Bill Clinton's mentor, allowed into the State Department CIA archives to only print 1,000 copies so that CIA and State Department folks could understand what they were doing. Well, how are we for communists, but we fund them? How are we against fascists, but we fund them? And he explains it all because, their operatives have to understand. And then, of course, the plates got out. It got republished. People didn't care what he said. Then he died, and it's admittedly written by him. And you read it, and it's like you're reading what's happening today. And here's the deal. They believe the world belongs to them, just like our ancestors came to America. It's standard procedure, actually, and said, well, let's just kill all the natives. Let's just kill them. Let's just take their land. It took about 100 years to really demonize them. At first, it didn't work like that. It was just people. But then other native groups would come say, help us wipe out this group. Oh, the natives were just as bad as the white people. It's humans, folks. But they, there's British manuals that are in the National Archives from the French and Indian War about open the sores, have the doctor or the surgeon, two different things, open the sores of your men that have the pustules of the pox. Spread it liberally upon the blanket. Make sure that within 1 day it works best to deliver it to the Indians. Biological warfare. And so the globalist, look at every culture. The Israelites, ordered, go in, kill everybody, take the land. Don't even keep their animals. Kill their animals as well. Every culture, the Romans would go in, wipe out entire groups. This is standard procedure. But they're just getting us ready for that great point. Alan Watt, how close are we until the globalists go ahead and start really wiping folks out in mass? Or do they want to first dehumanize us and toy with us a bit more and just watch us die of the cancers and the diabetes and the GMO? Because in most of their documents, as you know, they talk about once the real planetary control system's in place, they want to go ahead and devastate 1 billion and then get everybody scared. We'll all run to their arms and keep us safe from the terrorists or keep us safe from the mutations. And we'll take care of you, honey. And then they killed 2 billion, and now we're down to 6 billion. Then they wipe out another 2 billion. They more and more, they're not just saying they want to kill 80% as the UN documents, and that's the standard number. Now they're having debates about, should we kill all humans? Are humans a parasite disease? Alan Watt, what is their master plan? In like 5 minutes, what are they planning to do from your research?
Well, first just touch on what they've already done. And since the 50s, they've given us the cancer vaccines. They've given us GMO food. We've had pesticides from military industrial waste put on as a fertilizer since World War II. Cancer is going to kill everybody that's alive today. So they have been killing us off on quite a good hop, actually, quite a good clip since the 50s. But it's not enough. It's not fast enough now. But abortion, of course, is ratcheted up too. I noticed even in today's paper, they say that the census in the U.S. says that there are far fewer births now in America than they've ever had before, and that'll get worse as the economy goes down the hill. So
that's right. The entire West is dying. Replacement rate of 1.3. For every 2 adults, 1.3. And of course, it'll be impossible now to pay for the baby boomers. That was designed that way, so they're going to have to be killed.
Yes, and what they've also said in Britain and the Canada and the U.S. at the same time, by the way, because Harper did the same thing in Canada. He's trying to bring more young foreigners in to replace the people who are dying off. Healthy young people who can, again, pay off the national debt. That's the excuse for it. But so they accomplish a whole bunch of things. They deculturalize the people, but by bringing in the most diverse cultures en masse, large groups who will not assimilate.
And then you make them the cops and the CPS workers. I've had members of British Parliament on. Most of the CPS there are Eastern Europeans who came from Soviet terror, and they can't speak English, and they take your kid and billy club you. I mean, it's just siege forces of foreigners, yes.
Yes, and Tony Blair's, the assistant prime minister to Tony Blair came out and said that their orders were to, again, open the floodgates to immigration, again, from those diverse cultures, to eradicate the last vestiges of British culture. It must be gone forever. So totally destroy the culture. The people who come in have no loyalty to the country. They don't know what democracy or republicanism means, don't care to know. They're being well paid for taking over. But as I say, it's not fast enough a kill. The next part is the rapid de-urbanization into the major cities. That all their major books have said this would be the final part. And then once in there, they'll have you on extreme rationing for food. The UN has said that too, by the way, when they set up the UN's Department of Agriculture.
Food is a weapon. Henry Kissinger's Memorandum 200, yep. The 96 UN food meeting, Beijing. We will use it as a weapon. We're going to kill you. Post-industrial, we are murderers. But we're liberal, so it's cute and funny.
That's right. And then, of course, once you're crammed together and you're on a poor diet, you're wide open to all infections, and then they will release the proper infections in the right places at the right time. And again, it'll be made to sound quite natural. Oh, it's just this and it's that by the media. It's as poor.
Well, they're already pre-programming, you call it predictive programming, all these shows on history, discovery, books, end caps at grocery stores. The world after man, the end of humanity, yep. Earth is going to throw us off. Super plagues are coming because we're overpopulated. Then you have all the documents, they're creating it. I mean, it's now been released that the mainline document here that openly the USDA is funding corn that sterilizes you, rice that sterilizes you, but then, and I've got all the links up on Infowars.com, and then meanwhile, the ones they've already made do this, they're already doing it.
They've been sterilizing us gradually from 1950 onwards by the polio vaccine and others as well. And as you say, I mean, Rockefeller's Golden Rice Project for the third world countries, that's the side effect of it, it sterilizes the men. They've known that for years, and they promote that through the United Nations. So we're really getting hit hard with it. They don't want us to live very long. And they've got their timetables, too. They want us to be vastly reduced by the year 2030. And in between 30 and 50, they'll bring in their new super city states across the world, the end of nations, just a few very high-tech super cities where those who are deemed worthy to come through will live, who will be very valuable to their system or their city-state, scientific elite technocrats, that kind of thing. They don't need the old-type manual labor, the semi-skilled workers, and they don't need...
you just hit on something key, and I want to expand on that. If you actually read their documents, as you've done, but for folks that want to go look into this, they have 10 regions, but they destroy the nation state. They want it all weak with just global corporate rules, with then heavily armed city-states with their own private mercenary military. So they're actually going back to the feudal system. It's not really one big loving globe. It's city-states together waging war against the barbarian populations as they see us. Basically, it's the elite telling us through the Sean Connery film, Zardoz. That's right. Zardoz was a great wake-up, and most folk missed what it meant. But it was the whole eugenics plan right there. And again, a super elite who would come through and live in a big shielded bubble-type city, force fields, live forever. Because David Suzuki in Canada said a few years ago on CBC television... Called us maggots. Yeah, he said now we can make a person live for 500 years if we so wish. And he's a geneticist as well, as a human hater. Oh, yeah, they've already found all the gene triggers. They're not giving it to us. They could give us extended life. We could have off-world colonies, but we don't get any of that. We get to be exterminated like cockroaches, and these people get to go onto the stars, and the yuppies love it.
Yes, and also, I mean, I've read the articles and the books by the people like Charles Galton Darwin, and they truly believe in Darwinism. They believe, and they always give you the same analogies of the bacteria working on the soil, in comes a fungus after that and dies away, preparing the soil for the acorn to grow.